Hey everyone, Jacob Wuwert here from the National Sports Media Association. I'm here today with Montana Sportscaster of the Year, Mr. Rocky Erickson. Congratulations on this award and thank you for being here with me today.
Hey, Jacob, I appreciate it.
Awesome. How did you get first started in the business?
Well, it's an interesting story. I grew up in a small town in northeastern Montana. I went to a three-room grade school. I went to high school on the Native American reservation, 25 miles from home. And I was the only boy on the family wheat farm. And every day my dad said, son, someday this is all going to be yours. But Jacob, nothing wrong with farming. It wasn't for me. I was the one that put gas in the diesel combine. I mean, dad wasn't too pleased with me at all. So I knew at a very early age, like third grade, I wanted to be a sportscaster. When kids from the neighboring towns would come over on Sunday to use our little Vita gym, they would come to our house because my dad was on the school board. I would let him in, and then I would stick around and do the play-by-play while they played a pickup game of basketball. And then in fifth grade, this is before cassette tapes or anything, my parents bought me a reel-to-reel machine. Now, I would take that 3 feet tall to high school gyms, and I would pretend I was Howard Cosell and do the play-by-play. So I knew what I wanted to do with my life at a very, very early age, and I wanted to be a sportscaster.
Awesome. That's a very unique backstory. What do you think separates you from your peers in Montana?
Um, I do a lot of research. I worked for a network for 25 years, and now I enjoy telling people that I make a living telling sports stories from my basement studio. If I have to do a TV game, I mean, I prep 3 or 4 hours before that game. A radio game, I prep for an hour or two. I love numbers. I have a lot of stats. I know a lot of history, and that's probably the biggest thing that separates me from everybody else.
Awesome. So, how did you get to where you are right now, currently?
Well, I graduated from Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. I worked in gospel radio for 10 years. And a gentleman who owns a farm radio network approached me and said, we want to start a sports network. Do you want to come on board? And we started distributing the Colorado Rockies and Denver Broncos and added a rodeo show. And I started a 4-minute daily sports show. And it became very, very successful. Every little radio station in Montana and picked it up. And then when I left, I started something unique. Don't laugh, Jacob, but when I was growing up in Vita, I would run home at lunchtime to listen to Paul Harvey. And I had an idea. I said, someday I want to do a Paul Harvey type sports show. So today I produce a 53-second, 132-word sports story that airs on over 70 radio stations in 5 different states.
Wow,
So
that is pretty cool.
can I share with you a 53-second sports story?
Sure, why not?
All right. So what does baseball pitcher Gaylord Perry have in common with astronaut Neil Armstrong? Well, in 1962, during spring training, Gaylord Perry was hitting home run after home run in the batting cage. A young reporter went to the manager, L. Dark, and said, Perry is going to hit a home run today. Dark laughed and said, Gaylord Perry is one of the worst hitting pitchers I've ever seen. A man will walk on the moon before Gaylord Perry ever hits a home run. He turned out to be a great pitcher, won over 200 games. His batting average, not very impressive. But on July 20th of 1969, Gaylord Perry did hit a home run. But it came 2 hours after Neil Armstrong had walked on the moon. So manager L. Dark was right. A man did walk on the moon before Gaylord Perry ever hit a home run.
Wow, that's awesome. Very,
So
very
every
cool.
day I produce a 53-second story along with my 4-minute Montana sports story. I have a few sponsors, and then I do a lot of freelance sportscasting on radio and TV. And right now, a lot of graduation speeches. I have two graduations on Saturday, 2 hours
Wow.
apart in two different states.
Oh,
But Dave
wow.
said I could use the company private jet, and I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. What inspired you to go down this path of being a sportscaster?
It's the only thing I really ever wanted to do. And, when I speak at graduations this weekend, I share with them set goals, have dreams, and never give up on your dream. And when I was in high school, instead of being in sports, because I was not that athletic, I worked for the local radio station. And I asked them, where can I go to school to become a broadcaster? This is a long time ago, Jacob. And they said, you go to Brown Institute in Minneapolis, one of the top broadcasting schools in the nation. So I applied. So when I speak at high school graduations, I tell them my story of wanting to be a sportscaster. And then I read the letter I got from Brown, dated April 7th, 1978. Dear Mr. Erickson, after careful evaluation, we determine you have no future as a sportscaster. We regret we will not admit you to Brown Institute. I never gave up on my dream, and I became a sportscaster, even though I couldn't get into broadcasting school.
Wow. Very inspiring. Very, very inspiring. Who would you say you look up to within the sportscasting business?
It's unique. I don't really, consider myself, like one of the top sportscasters or whatever. I just consider myself a storyteller.
Mhm.
And, I've had opportunities to go elsewhere, but I very much enjoy being in Montana and doing what I do in a very, very small state.
Awesome. Final question. What advice do you think you could give for future broadcasters like myself?
Never give up. I mean, you got to get involved in each and everything you do. I always encourage, I've had young people that have came and sat with me and they said, Rocky, how can I become a sportscaster? I invite them to come sit with me. And I had one young man that did that for 2 seasons of high school sports. And he ended up at ABC television and he did, behind the scenes, but he did really well. So every young person that approaches me, I have them, sit with me and I give them all the time in the world. Do we have time for one more story, Jacob? We got time for one more story,
Sure, we
don't
got
we?
one more. We got a little bit more time for one more
We
story.
got
Yes,
one
we
more
do.
time for one more story. Okay. So in Montana, we only have two Division I college programs, Montana State and University of Montana. Of course, that's the biggest rivalry game of the entire year. It's
Hmm.
the second oldest rivalry west of the Mississippi. I'm
Oh,
often asked, what is the most exciting Cat Grizz game ever played? I don't know what the most exciting game is, but I know what the most meaningful game ever played. And that was in November of 1941. When the Montana State Bobcats met the Montana Grizzlies that day, on the cover of the program was not a photo of a player, but a photo of a soldier. Everybody knew our country was about to go to war. In the first half of that 41 game, the Bobcats' Bill Zupan would score twice. First time the Bobcats had scored in the series in 8 years. But Iso Naranchi from Butte in the second half would lead the Grizzlies to their 10th straight win. 33 days after that game was played, the Japanese would bomb Pearl Harbor. Our country would go to World War II. Sadly, 18 months later, Iso Naranchi was killed in World War II. Butte High School today names their high school football stadium Naranchi Stadium. Sadly, but 5 of the 11 young men who started for the Grizzlies in that 41 game died in World War II. For the Bobcats, the situation was much worse. 10 of the 11 starters did not come home from the war. There was no Cat Grizz game in 1942 to 46. The series resumed in 47. The Bobcats won for the first time in several years. Leading them to victory was Bill Zupan, the only surviving starter for the Bobcats who played in 1941.
Wow. That is very interesting. And as a history guy myself, I love hearing stuff about that. But thank you for your time today, Mr. Erickson, and I
Will
hope to
I
see
meet
you.
you in North Carolina next month?
Yes, I will be there. I was just about to say I hope to see you there this June at the award ceremony.
No, I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Jacob.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.